gonna go over a little brief overview of running these brake lines. I tried to record a bunch of videos while I was doing it. Just working on the car, how dark it was, and trying to get certain angles. It wasn't worth it, so I'm just gonna do a quick overview on the brake lines. So I just ordered a stainless steel brake line kit. I believe it's a 7-piece kit. I think they were from Inline Tube. I just ordered it offline, Googled 85 Monte Carlo brake line kit, and that's what came up. So it's fairly easy to install. I did order a new proportioning valve also. So that is a disc to disc proportioning valve. I believe what comes on them is disc to drum. So this is a disc to disc, and I believe it's 50-50. I know there's some adjustable ones out there, or you could adjust how much pressure or how much rear and front bias to the brakes you want, but I just went with the 50-50 one, so hopefully it works for those big old brakes. But for the most part, the lines, they come pre-bent, so you don't have to do any modification to them, but to get them to sit where they are, you do have to bend them slightly, or not really bend them, just persuade them to go into the right spots. So start with the driver's side. Pretty much just runs through this bracket right here, and then there's a few clips along the frame, and then it goes into the proportioning valve. So not too hard. The only issue I'm concerned about is this brake line that comes off the caliper. I'm not sure if it's too long or not, or if I just have to route it a different way, because it is pretty close to some moving parts. So hopefully it stays in place. This is Sam on this side too with that same hose, but this hose, or this brake line, it's a shorter line, so there's no clamps for it or tie downs. Just pretty much runs through this bracket here, and then just into the proportioning valve. Same thing with these two. I want to say the smaller one is the front, and the larger one is the rear. I might have those mixed up, but the larger one, you can tell there it's a little thicker, goes up front. The smaller one goes in the rear, and you can kind of tell where they go just by how they run. You see the thicker one runs to the back, and the thinner one's up front. I'll crawl up under there in a second. Like I said, it's fairly easy. It's a lot easier without a motor being in there. You kind of get a better feel for how the lines are ran. And it just looks good too. But I'm gonna crawl up under there. I know it might get a little dark. So I did try to record this last night, but it was a little dark, so decided to do it when it's a little brighter outside. But you see everything ties in there nicely. I haven't filled it up with any fluid yet. I might just hold off until a later time, but I do know alright, so I did look at the Elco a little bit, see how it was ran, and the Elco did not have this bracket right here. So at first I was thinking the line ran behind it. It does not run in front of it. There's a spot for the little clip and everything, so runs in front of this little brace here. Like I said, the Elco doesn't have that, so I think it just runs alongside the frame. And there's a few more clips alongside there. Then back here it gets a little tricky because you see it runs up along the frame here and it goes up and pretty much tucks between the frame and the body. And then let's see if I can get it. So come on the frame and the body, then it'll run on the inside of this center brace, and then there's a hole here that the hard line would run through, and then it'll run through and it'll attach to this flex hose. So it just ties into that. No, I didn't use the hard lines that came with the kit on the rears because, like I said, this is a GN rear end, and it already had the their hard lines into some braided lines, and the hard lines wasn't lined up because those were for, I believe, the drum brakes. And so with the disc back here, I just used the lines that were already on here. They look good, so hopefully they'll be alright. But yeah, once you run it through that hole, you just have to connect it to this braided line and you're all good. But I know this line was hard to get off because there's a clip back here that you have to make sure you get that clip off and then make sure to reinstall it so that it holds everything in place. But it's not too bad. And I know these braces right here, get the light. I know this part might be all over the place, but these braces right here aren't factory, so the line actually runs close to the frame instead of the floor. So I know I started running it through this hole, so I knew where I needed to route it, and then it is pre-bent, so that does help out with where it needs to go. But you do have to add just a little bit of pressure in there just to set it back in there, and then it pretty much drops into place for being alongside the frame. That's pretty much all I have on it. I know when you do get the kit, it comes in a pretty tall box, but with the line that goes from the proportioning valve to the rear, that comes pre-bent, so there's a pretty big U-bend in it, and there's instructions that tell you how to straighten it out. So you pretty much put it on a flat surface. I did the garage floor, and then you rock it back and forth while slowly bending it out, and eventually it'll flatten out. For the most part, you might have to use your knee a little bit to bend it, and then it'll straighten out. But other than that, like I said, I think that back corner, just trying to get that rear line in, is probably the hardest part. Everything else up here pretty much falls into place. Like I said, once you get the proportioning valve on, you might have to bend all the lines just a little bit to get them to go in there straight, but it doesn't take much. Like I said, I wanted to do a how-to, but just being on the garage floor with the car lifted up, just on the ramps, it's dark under there, not really enough space, not really good lighting for the camera, so I'm just doing this overview. But there it goes. Like I said, it's a lot easier for me to show you guys without the motor and everything in there, so you can see how it's all lined out, or how it all lines up. If there's anything I haven't done yet that you guys want to see, let me know, and I'll try to cover that as much as I can. Especially with nothing being in the car, it's going to be a lot easier to see how it sits or where it goes and how it's done. But that's all I have. Try to keep this somewhat short, maybe around 10 minutes, but that's it.